The Lilian Nganga story, Lilian Nganga and Governor Alfred Mutua story, has attracted a lot of attention from Kenyans and a lot of more feelings. But so far, nobody has really gone very deeply into this story to understand the dynamics. And yet we already have so much information to put everything together and to learn something from it all. Because we are all still in school, we're all in class, we are supposed to learn from this life. Every second, every minute of our lives. And granted, learning may be boring to many, but this is a very juicy story. And something so juicy should make learning easy, should make absorbing the facts and the lessons extremely easy. Karibu sana to my show today, and as usual, enjoy. This Lilian Nganga, Alfred Mutua manenos, has escalated to a level which has raised great concern amongst Kenyans. And from what we know so far, we can put a lot of this story together, and have a better understanding of precisely what is happening. And hopefully, because this is even more important, take home some lessons for our own lives. And for today's show, I want us to broaden this subject to the plight of women who are companions or are married to VIPs, very important people, very powerful people in the nation called Kenya. Because I believe, based on the information I have, and also based on my past experiences, that these poor Kenyan women go through hell on earth. And so before we dive into this Lilian Nganga issue in great depth, let us back up a little, please allow me, to May last year, 2020. A photograph of Mama Rachel Ruto appeared online and went viral. I believe you can see that photograph on your screens right now. Some people claimed that it was photoshopped. It was not the reality. Others had a much more dramatic tale to tell. Now, the Deputy President is on record as having come out and strongly denied these insinuations and accusations. And he told us what he called the gutter press had always targeted his family. And they had also targeted him personally with false accusations to tarnish his good name and image. Now, if you've been having your ear to the ground concerning Kenyan personalities, you will know that this was not the first time that whispers and these kind of accusations against the Deputy President had emerged. But of course, it is quite possible that there are some people who are very determined to go out of their way to tarnish the image of the Deputy President. More so now, when he is a candidate for the presidency of the Republic of Kenya in 2022. just a few months away. But for today, on this show, what I would like us to focus on is the plight of women who are married to very important persons, and especially people who wield immense power. And so, let us step away from an investigation of whether these allegations were true or not, and instead focus on what women go through. And let us imagine that this particular allegation could be true in a situation like this one, where you're married to the deputy president or even the president of the Republic of Kenya. And the man you're married to is a violent man. Now, please just be patient with me for a minute. We'll come into this Lilian Nganga issue and we'll dive very deeply into it. But this introduction is important. And my approach here is important, as you will very quickly discover. Imagine yourself in such a situation. You're a woman. What would you do? The truth is, your options would be very limited. As we have seen very clearly from the Lilian Nganga case, where she has actually produced evidence of what is being done to her, which has been made publicly available. Irrefutable evidence that she's being stripped of her assets. My point is, the man who is your husband or was your husband can make your life hell. They are more than capable of taking you through a nightmare you would not wish on your worst enemy. And that is the truth. Because even if you make a distress call, and the police hear that the person they're dealing with here is so and so, a very powerful person in a county, a very powerful person in the country, they would naturally hesitate. They're very unlikely to take any action. Their thinking would be, how do you even handle a domestic issue at the house of your boss? How? But the saddest thing of all is that in most instances, the whole thing is reduced into mere politics. My enemies are the ones who have cooked this story. My political enemies who have done this and that to me in the past have now decided to get personal, and they have now entered my bedroom, which of course is a very believable defense. It is also the kind of rhetoric that quickly diverts attention from the real issue here, which has absolutely nothing to do with politics. Because I believe we all know that Kenyans love politics. The easiest way to divert their attention is to introduce politics into something, and then they'll forget very quickly all the real issues surrounding what you've brought up. And on the receiving end of all this is a poor woman who has very limited options. A woman who finds it very difficult to lift her finger to take any action, because the first thing she thinks about is her children and the impact this particular issue would have on her children. And so in most cases, women decide to suffer in silence for the sake of their dear children. Understandably so, but unfortunately, many times this decision has led to a very fatal end to these manenos. And very unfortunately, we have very many armchair analysts, people looking at this situation from the outside, with absolutely no idea what people are going through, who are very quick to judge. Yeah, and pose questions like, "Kwani you didn't know this man before you got married to them? Before you got involved with this man, you didn't know his true character?" And so on and so forth. Yeah, I wish I was there to answer these men on behalf of these women, because I would immediately ask them the question, "Kwani you didn't know your wife before you got involved with her?" And that is bound to shut up most of them. Because the truth of the matter in relationships, the reality, is that you don't get to know the other person until it is too late. And that is one of the reasons why I'm a firm believer in arranged marriages. Yeah, but that is a story for another day. Don't throw the stones yet. If you're a woman in such a situation, what would you do? Expose them in the press? How now? That would have a major impact on your family, your extended family, your children, your future, because you stand the real danger of being labeled for the rest of your life. Yeah, through no fault of your own. People just label you, put you up on some shelf, and ignore you. Your opportunity is gone. Everything you try and do in your life, impossible. Because you're trapped in a shelf. Yeah, you've already been labeled and you've been put there in a shelf that is not to be touched. That is the reality. It is very easy to advise a woman, just run and save your life. Forget all the other things, they're not as important. It's very easy to give that kind of advice. And then you feel very wise after dishing out that advice. But the reality is that it's not as easy as that. It is not a simple matter of just waking up one morning and running as fast as you can away from the danger, away from that situation of being exposed to gender-based violence. And I believe the case of Lilian Nganga is extremely instructive, and teaches us a lot, and emphasizes on that point that I've just made. You've given 20 years of your life to a relationship. You've been fully involved in it. Whatever assets that have been gathered during that time, you have a full right, because you are part of that process of acquiring those assets, even if you are just a mere housewife. My apologies. There's no such thing as a mere housewife. That is one of the most difficult occupations on this earth. It is much more involving than any job I know. And I'm afraid that is a story for another day, because it's a very involving discussion, and we have to stick to the topic today. And so you have played your role in this union. You have weathered the very bad days when you needed to encourage him, when you needed to be there for him, when things went very wrong. And at the end of that period, at the end of 10 years, at the end of 15 years, that person is successful. And they would not have been as successful, trust me, without your input. That is a fact. For those interested in more details of exactly what I mean, I will handle that thoroughly in a separate video. And so after all that, how do you go and snatch away that dress you bought for your wife? In happier times, how do you go and snatch away that vehicle you purchased for your dear wife when things were okay? Some men have even taken women through the harrowing experience of sending auctioneers, people to repossess the vehicle, yeah, and they do it in the middle of the streets of Nairobi at the traffic lights. True story. And I believe many of you know who I'm referring to. The woman is forced to remove her handbag and other effects. Yeah. The keys are snatched away from her, and she's left there stranded in the hot sun as the vehicle speeds away. And maybe she's somewhere close to industrial area in Nairobi, for those who know where that is, in the hot sun, shocked, confused, and disorientated. Even if you're no longer with her, how do you do that to a woman and still call yourself a man? How? And it doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter what caused the rift that forced your separation. It doesn't matter. Maybe she even did something very spiteful. Maybe she really hurt your feelings as a man. Maybe she even took off with your watchman or your best friend. It still doesn't matter. And even if she did those things to you, you still have no right to lift a finger of violence against her. Hey, you're a real man. How do you reduce yourself to the level of behaving and reacting exactly the way a woman would? How? How do you do that? Gosh, real men walienda wapi? You know, I know a man who once threatened his wife and told her she could leave. However, everything he had ever bought for her, by the way, her occupation was the very honorable, taxing occupation of executive housewife. The music system he had so lovingly bought her, the 55-inch TV, etc., etc., everything awache hapo. And even the clothes she was wearing. This man wanted his wife, his dear wife, to rush to the supermarket, buy other clothes, and leave those ones he had purchased himself in that house with him. And then she just takes a walk. Now, had somebody made the mistake, like some people do, of calling me in to be the judge and jury over this situation and to make a judgment, my judgment would have been very simple. I would have told the man, I agree with you. That is okay. That is good. However, let her leave everything, and then you will need to do something very small in return. Restore her to the girl you met 15 years ago. No marks anywhere on her body, no children. Let her live exactly how she came. The woman you saw and your knees went weak, let her live precisely and exactly like that. And then it is okay. There's no problem. To any reasonable, right-thinking person, that is fair, isn't it? Yeah. And if he can't do that, then no deal. In fact, this man needs to pay this woman compensation for damages to her body during the relationship and for wasting her time, because she would have gotten a real man instead of this thing calling itself a man. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not naive. I've been on the receiving end, me myself, Mpesa Kshs, of very evil women. Women who do not deserve to be called humans. Yeah, I've been on the receiving end. But it doesn't change my views. I am a real man. I am not perfect, of course. I have made many mistakes, even with women. But there are things I will never do. Because I am a real man. Now, men have feelings. Men, we are very jealous. Women can be more jealous. But as a real man, will you compete with a woman in the department of jealousy? Hell no! Now we know that Lilian came from very humble beginnings. She has told us in the past that she grew up in a village somewhere in Central Province. And she went to school initially barefoot. She went through the struggle that most ordinary Kenyans from that kind of background go through. Before she met the Machakos governor, she worked at Safari Park Hotel. She also worked for the national carrier, Kenya Airways. Bottom line, it is rather obvious that Bwana Alfred Mutua, His Excellency, the governor of Machakos, changed her life, as a man should do to a woman. And in return, Lilian Nganga gave Alfred Mutua 10 of the best years of her life, which she can never recover. Now, in this life, we have some people who are very wise. They may not have gone very far in school, but they're wise. They sense things. They can read a situation very quickly with very little information. Former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko on Twitter tried to give Lilian some advice. The response from the Kenyan online community was predictable. Because most Kenyans are online to have a laugh, to be entertained, even when there are very serious matters on the table. Many others are naive. They have no idea what Mike Sonko is talking about. And I believe you can see Mike Sonko's tweet on your screens right now. Now, if you understand the psychology of women, the way they were wired, you would know immediately that there's a game going on here. There's a war going on here, chini ya maji. A war being fought by a woman, the only way women know how to fight back. And if you're one of those people who can read things deeper, this will also give you a hint as to what may have caused the whole problem. Right from the word go. Women are very complex, granted, but their reaction to most situations is very predictable. I sometimes joke with my friends that a woman is like steamer, electricity. If you flip on a switch, the right switch, the light will come on. It will flood the room. You'll be happy. But if you decide that you're not going to use the switch, you're going to do your own ukarabati and interfere with the wiring somewhere, and start touching live wires, my friend, you'll get electrocuted, and electrocuted very badly. There are some things us men do very casually, but the impact they have on women, I'll tell you something else I tell my friends. The impact it has on women. 30 years from now, your grandson will meet a woman somewhere and he'll start suffering. And he will suffer through no fault of his own, but because of the sins of his father and his grandfather. My friend, if you want to be a wise man, stick to the switch that has been put there on the wall for you. Don't try other exciting experiments. Yeah, I believe wise men have understood me. If you're a woman, you cannot change that. You cannot stop being a woman and responding and reacting like a woman, like women have since the beginning of time. No matter how highly educated you are, no matter how exposed and traveled you are, yeah, but try and battle your emotions. Try your best. My advice, find something that will distract you away from that trauma that is making you do things that even you yourself do not understand. What I mean is that you do not understand fully. Yeah, if you stepped back for a minute and looked at what you were doing, you would not really understand. But if you knew what I know, and you are a man, you would know that you would need to move on. You would need to take the position of a real man and control the emotions of jealousy. Yeah. Pressing down on you so hard that you find it difficult to breathe. Oh yes, I'm a man. I've been jealous. I understand. In conclusion, a message to voters in Kenya. You know, there are some things in this life that you don't think are connected. You can never imagine they're connected. There are some things in this life you do not believe will affect the voting decision you make. In the United States of America, a presidential candidate must have a wife, and he must have a good relationship with that wife. And even if they don't, they must try their best, go out of their way, get their handlers to do everything in their power, use all their skills to convince the public that their relationship is good. Now, sitting in Africa, it is easy to look at that and say, rubbish. That is a Mzungu thing. However, that would be a tragically naive way of looking at things, because a man's wife affects that man even in his performance of the duties as your president. Now I'm going to tell you something very shocking, at least for most of you. So I advise you to sit down if you're standing. I advise you to get comfortable if you're in that uncomfortable situation. This will blow your mind, but it is 1000% true. The good book tells us a man and his wife are one thing. That is very deep. Yeah, and I explain exactly what I mean in my next video. But let me give you a very quick illustration. Your body is one. You're one thing. If your tiny toe on your left foot has a problem, will it affect your whole body? Of course it will, in a very major way. And your dear wife is much more important than your small toe. Spiritually, in your life. Let me conclude this with an illustration that explains everything. I once knew a man who came to a church for prayer. Everything he did failed. Everything he tried never worked until he became useless. You know, a useless man can't raise a single cent to keep his family going. He's trying but nothing is working. It did not take the spiritual pastor long to find out what the problem was. It was his wife. Some years earlier, the man had a very good job as a turnboy on a lorry. Yeah. Now I know most of us do not know, but these people earn a lot of money. They're very prosperous. They have many ways of earning money. And he was making a lot of money. And the money changed him, or rather brought out his true character. And he started frustrating his wife. Until one day, because of another woman he got involved with, he left his wife and his family starving. And his wife cried. And one day in his presence, she uttered the following words: "I have stood with you all this time when you had nothing. Now that you have a job and you're earning a lot of money, you're frustrating me and the children. We don't have any food to eat. You're getting drunk and roasting meat all over the place. That job will end, and you will never get another job, and you will suffer the way I'm suffering." She said it with a lot of bitterness. That was the problem. It was a curse. I know most of us don't believe in spiritual things. It was a curse. I have not seen this man for very many years, but the last time I left him, he had been prayed for. He had gone through deliverance. His wife had forgiven him. He had repented. But things still refused to change in his life. The curse remained upon his life. Life is such that there are some things which are very easy to get into and very difficult, almost impossible to get out of. The wife of a man, the good book tells us, is one thing with that man. She has power. Read your Bible. And what she says, what she feels, what she's suffering will affect that man without fail. So go ahead, vote for your next president, and completely ignore the fact that he may be a man of gender-based violence manenos. Ignore the fact that he may not be in good terms with his wife. And as sure as the sun rises and sets every day, those issues are going to affect his presidency and affect you as a country directly. And it is not always about money. It may be about other bigger issues that will affect you, because they will affect the man. Maybe they're already affecting the man and the way he does things. Folks, this thing of a candidate and his wife is not a mzungu thing. It is not. Please find the time to do your own research. Now in the next video, which is much shorter than this one, my apologies, I unravel a revelation that will blow your mind, explaining a mind-boggling fact, about men and their relationship with women, and how it impacts our lives. Indeed, virtually everybody listening to me has been affected by this thing, which many of us are ignorant of. Even I was ignorant of. But when I discovered it, I kicked myself violently. And I really regretted. But I'm still picking up the pieces, based on this information to recover what I've lost over the many, many years of my life when I was ignorant of this true, factual, mind-boggling fact. Don't miss that video. Do anything possible, but don't miss that video under any circumstances. You will understand when you've gone through it. If you've come too early to this video, chances are that the link at the top right hand corner is not yet up. Yeah, because that video is not yet ready. But please come back later and that link will be up there. If you're coming to this video a bit late, that link should already be there. Click on it, go to that video. See you there, please. This is Chris Kumekucha.